Hello, welcome to Waiting for Game, podcast presented to you by Melee Stats. And if you've been watching these past couple episodes, you know that I usually introduce myself as a major seeder, a top 100 organizer, and lately I've been putting some Smash World Tour credentials under my belt. And if you watched this past weekend, you would also see that now, in addition to all of those, I am the guy who gets to go on stage and tells Hungry Bucks to wear a mask. And what a wonderful weekend it was! In addition to being able to grace the presence of the stream with that, and also I think I was testing someone's headphone at one point on the stream. The stream was also being graced with probably one of the best turns we've seen in a while, and I think it's in no small part due to the number of upsets by someone we might hear from later. But before we get to that, gentlemen, I want to introduce my wonderful co-host. You know him from the Book of Melee, and you might know him from another upcoming project that we're going to discuss later in this episode. He is, of course, Edwin Budding. What is going on, Edwin?
I'm doing well, man. I'm so glad to be here. I'm really excited to talk about Smash World Tour. I'm really excited for our guest today. I'm excited to talk to you. I think we're coming up to a really exciting time for Melee, where there's just going to be so much drama, so much discourse, so many tournaments, but they're all going to be fun this time. So I'm ready to jump into it.
I mean, hey, you talk about discourse. I love discourse almost as much as I love content. Those are the two big things in my life: discourse and content. And who is better at both of those than our wonderful guest for this week's episode, Polish? How is it going, Polish?
It was going a little better before that segue, but
Okay, how about this? You might know him from his third place at Smash World Tour North America East Qualifier Melee 2021, with
my
wins
God.
over players such as Cody IBW Schwab, Juan Hungry Bucks Vivienda, and Avery Ginger Wilson. We have our own Matt Polish Warshaw. How's it doing, Polish? How's it doing?
I'm doing well. I don't know. I'm recovering from the weekends. I'm excited to play more video games with good players. Apparently I'm like, my mind's totally blank right now, and I've like not really done any content slash putting myself out in the world as a human rather than a person who moves a character on a screen. So no, just a little fear. But aside from that, I'm doing wonderful.
That's amazing. We are coming off of. I mentioned that one of the best weekends made that we've seen. We are coming off of a holiday. Sunday was, of course, a pretty big holiday, and that holiday was Throw to Polish Day, as I've heard from Twitter.
I do hear this, yeah. People have been saying this.
I don't think anyone's been saying that more so than yourself. Polish, let's hear about your run, because I distinctly remember you having some of the best wins of the tournament, and then walking into the lounge, as I'll call it, and having some choice words about how no one was playing well and you don't have any good wins because no one actually, played it well enough for them to count. Let's hear your thoughts on the weekend, because I think that any Melee player would love to have this. I want to hear your your thoughts on everything.
There's a lot there to unpack. So the concept of a win, right, as a like thing that you do, a thing that you accomplish through whatever means, and now that you've got it, your rankings get better, you get more clout, it's good, you look at it and you're like, oh, I'm like worth more in some sense because I have a win. I kind of had to abandon that mentality in order to get good enough at the game, to actually get good wins. So to me, my personal experience is the thing that I am concerned about when I attend tournaments is whether my gameplay is better in a meaningful sense than it was at my last tournament, and what things I can then improve on.
Mm-hmm.
So when I play a player in a set. I am happy if I play the player and if I beat them in a way that I feel like, oh, I feel like I outplayed them. I feel like I could do that again. There's more to learn, more to do. That was cool. Uh, but if I play a player and I feel like I played them in a set, we've gone on, the result has been decided, but I do not think I would beat them a second time. That doesn't feel great. That does not feel good to me. So when I played Hungry God, um, I certainly felt throughout the first few games, I was like, huh, playing good melee. Don't think this guy's ready for this matchup. He certainly has not thought about this in like years, maybe. I don't know, like intentionally tried to get better at it. So I was like, oh, this is going well. I think I can beat him, and then I think that's good for me. And then he made like really strong adaptations. I was like, oh my god, I need to be so much better to win. There's so much more I need to do. And then at the last stock, he decided, like the last couple stocks of his, he decided to throw that all out the window and then just let me kill him a few times. And I was like, okay, that sucked. I don't think I'd beat him again. I don't think I'd beat him again at all. I practically lost. And then that's kind of how I feel from my mentality and my approach to the game. But you see, I go out into the world and I am expected to have just gotten a Hungry Box win and to be thinking about the rankings and the clout and, pogging out of my mind. But instead, I'm thinking, damn, I'm not going to be able to do that a second time. So that was unfortunate. It did not feel like a metric for me to say I've gotten better at the game. I'm like good now. It felt like, oh no, I'm not good enough, but I won anyway. So that's kind of my standpoint on how that happened this weekend.
Well,
Which
you know, you talk about this, and I think this is a legitimate way of looking at improvement. I think this is a healthy way of looking at improvement too, to not completely base yourself off of tournament results, and instead have your own way of measuring yourself, your play. And I think that's kind of similar to something that Captain Faceroll talked to us about last week. Yeah, both of you guys got third. Both of you guys proved it's not like a one win fluke, and then suddenly nothing. The rest of the tournament doesn't follow that. Your trajectory throughout the entire event kind of proved that, regardless of what you think of that individual Hungry Box win and how replicable it is, surely you must feel good about this entire thing, right? You followed up with winning your pool as the last seed, and you followed it with a win over Laud and a win over IBW. You were in winners finals of this event, so I mean, I want to hear your thoughts on this, but I don't know. I'm not sure if I can let you sit here and say just because you had beat H-Bucks, you had a bad event. I don't want to hear.
Okay. I definitely did not have a bad event, but in terms of like, am I coming away specifically because of my tournament interactions with H-Box and how I won that set? Am I coming away like fulfilled from this event? That is not where my happiness from this event came from. So yeah, that was fine. That was cool. I definitely was not super happy about that win. And then Ginger, okay, so Ginger is such a good player last stock game 5. Every single time he's farmed me last stock game 5 so many times. And like one of the big things that I was thinking once I saw my pool was like, oh, I want another shot at Ginger last stock game 5. Come on, give it to me. If I can beat Ginger last stock game 5, that's like, I need to do what it takes. I need to improve in the ways that are required to beat Ginger game 5 last stock. And then I got there and I was in that moment. I was like, oh my God, it's happening. I have another shot. I can do it. And then I didn't. He started hitting me, and he was in a spot where he was about to win. I was like, no, it's happening again. It's happening again. I'm losing to Ginger game 5 for the 100th time in a row because he's such a genius player on his last stock. And then he just killed himself, and I was like, this is somehow worse. So, I I accept what has happened, but I definitely was like, it's hard to kind of like accept the juxtaposition of like I have just gotten like two very very big wins, and I'm there, and people are like pogging out over that with like my internal how I feel about events, which is no, what the hell, not again, no. So I was definitely like sitting there for a while, kind of trying to figure out what to do with that one. But here we are. I have accepted it. I've moved on. We're now in the future. Everything's okay for me. My Magi set made me much happier.
Yeah, yeah.
She like we just played like reasonable set of melee, like two strong melee players, and I won, and that was cool, and that was good melee. I really
That
like
was the
playing good
first
melee.
one that you won on Saturday. That you did not walk into the lounge and say like, "I wish everyone played better." But yeah, I mean, so like what were your expectations for the event? You come into this, I believe you're the 14th overall seed. You're the last seed in your pool.
Mhm.
And you end up, despite how you got there, despite your feelings on how you got to first seed,
We
you,
got there. We
you were the
got
only,
there.
you were the last seed, and you came out in first, so you're the only last seed to do that. Um, what were your thoughts going into the tournament, just in terms of like your bracket itself and your entire mental preparedness for the tournament?
Right. So when I got invited to this event initially, I was actually kind of surprised because the East Coast is such a strong region. I was like, oh, cool. I guess I'm considered that good. That's nice. Um, and didn't think about it too much. Then the pools came out. I saw my pool and I was like, oh God, they've given me H God for the one seed. Oh no. And then like I saw Ginger and Magi and I was like, huh, I could just conceivably win this entire pool. But then I was also thinking I could conceivably lose the entire pool as well. So I was in a spot where I was like, damn, if either of these things happen, I will not be shocked at all. Because definitely, H box is H box. Ginger's beaten me the last bunch of times in a row, but Peach Falco, sometimes Peach hits Falco and Falco dies. And that's nice. Then Magi, I used to destroy Magi. No offense to Magi, a huge fan, personal hero of mine. Um, I used to be beating her like pretty bad, and then we played like 1 3 hour session, and I think she got like fiction to analyze it for her. And the next time we played, she was like so much better, and I was like, I shouldn't have helped her. I could have beat her if I hadn't helped her out. But coming to the event, I was like, no, she's so much stronger because I played her. Oh God. But yeah, I just kind of came in and I was like hoping to qualify because it's like it'd be cool to like meet and be able to play friendlies with a bunch of really good players from a lot of different places. That seems like a cool and fun thing to do. So those were, I guess, my hopes. Um, I certainly thinking when I had gone down my train of thought of like I think I could possibly win this pool. I was not expecting it to happen the way it happened. Yeah, but here we are, and I accept that. And then I guess coming into, do you want me to talk about like going into like out of pool into main
Yeah.
bracket? Right. So I saw pool 4 happening. By the way, pool 4 messed up pool. Lod got the most insane death pool I've ever seen. Literally, Wizzy, Nunn, Ben, Lod is the 4 seed. If I had gotten that pool, I get murked. I just get demolished. And Lod went into that pool and got out in winners. Unbelievable player. I was astonished that he did that. Oh my God. Like I saw my pool and I was like, I got so lucky comparatively.
I
But
know Edwin's a big Laud believer.
I'm Lod. That guy's a genius. That guy's such a genius. If he comes to these tournaments from med school. He has no time to practice whatsoever, and he comes out and he beats all these people. So rusty. How does he do it? How does he do it? I don't know.
So
I'm best player in the world. Best
So
peach.
going into your set with Lon in the actual bracket, I know you two had played before, and I
Mhm.
know you two are both, in addition to sharing playing Peach, you both share both Pittsburgh and MDVA allegiances together. So
Yeah.
And
what was
both
kind
number
of your
one, as the graphic said.
Yeah.
yeah?
Both very strong number one players in Pittsburgh.
So what was your preparation like heading into another tough Peach Ditto with Lod?
My preparation. Well, okay, so I was kind of like feeling a lot of emotions after my day one. I was like, wow, I won my pool. There's a lot of little people in my phone being nice to me right now. Social media numbers are going up. Many people are perceiving an entity that resembles me online. Um, so I was kind of like buzzing with all of that and like couldn't get to sleep until pretty late. And then there was a cat trying to sleep. Okay, I was staying with my parents and there was a cat trying to sleep on the couch that I was trying to sleep on. And I didn't want to move it, but I couldn't fall asleep with this cat on the couch. So I stayed awake for an extra hour and a half trying to like sleep around my parents' cat. And then at 4 a.m. I was like, oh God, I have to sleep. I need something. And I did the evil thing and I picked up the cat and I moved it off the couch and I felt really bad. And then I got some sleep and and I headed to the venue. I got there. I was kind of really, really tired. I was like, I was talking to Essie before my set, as I often do, because she's like an insane coach, an insanely good coach. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm thinking about it and I'm really tired and I want to go home. And I don't feel like I have much of a game plan right now, but I think I can figure something out. And that was how I felt going into the Lod set. Now, mid set, obviously, it changed into like we played meaningful top level melee, and that was very cool. But my preparation was to feel bad and then drink an energy drink, like I'm sure top players do. I'm sure that's the healthy sports way to get into it. I definitely was also like, so the Peach Ditto has probably been one of my best matchups, if not my best matchup, ever since I picked up Peach initially.
Hmm.
Um, Laud has beaten me like so many times in a row in that matchup. He beat me literally like at least 10 times in a row. The number I say is 15 because it sounds right. Probably not correct at all. But like to me, in my heart, Laud beat me like 15 times in a row in my best matchup. He switched to Fox in one set and then beat me with the Fox.
Oh god.
He finished a Xanadu over me by playing Yoshi once. And I was,
Yeah,
yeah,
that
so
sounds about right.
that guy has quite a history of beating me up.
I mean, to quote Lod himself, Yoshi is just better Peach.
Yoshi
So
is just better Peach, and I learned that at that Xanadu.
actually, if there's anyone who embodies the Peach Yoshi connection, it would be you. So
It's me? Oh, is that because I just play on the platforms more
on the
than any other
platforms,
Peach?
yes.
Yeah.
Your playstyle is very definitely. There's definitely some connective tissue between how you it's like shield drop, double jump, cancel aerials. Is that what is?
Right. So a lot of my playstyle can be attributed to the fact that at the beginning of me playing Melee, it was like the shield drop era was happening, and all the commentators they just talked about shield dropping.
It's like
Um,
2015 or so, right?
yeah, 2015 or so. So when I was starting off, I watched a lot of players go on the platform and hold shield and not have to win an interaction in order to get a hit. And I, a young Falco, I did watch a red Falco do this quite a bit. I
Impossible
also,
to know who.
yeah, impossible to know who. I watched Plup, and I was just like, wow, he's just holding his shield on the platform. Oh, he just got a hit. Oh my goodness, that's cool. So I kind of like when I started off playing Melee, I wanted the way I like thought about neutral was I want to get like hits, but I don't want to like. I was too scared to like actually play mix-ups or interactions. So all of the options where it's like, give me a free hit, I just kind of like latched onto those immediately. So shield dropping kind of stuck somehow, even through the transition to Peach, who like traditionally not really a super shield droppy character or whatever. Um, so just kind of stuck with that, and somehow along the way I developed a bunch of like platform mix-ups because I was like, oh no, I can't only shield drop. People have adapted, and then I naturally my play kind of like spiraled out from there. Learned more things. And then recently I learned, I think in like 2019, I was like, huh, you can shield drop, and you can float immediately after you shield drop. And then you can do a float canceled aerial, and then you can land on the platform after that. And no other Peaches were doing that at the time. And I was like, seems pretty good. And I started doing it, and it's really good. It's a really good option. So now I'm the platforms guy, platforms George. So yeah, I guess my Yoshi is similar to my Peach in that it also stands on the platforms and tries to get free hits.
Could your Yoshi beats Laud's Yoshi though?
Oh my god, I want to play that now. Oh my god, I think that Lod's Yoshi's got the fundamentals on me. I think Lod's Yoshi's got the smarts. I think that my Yoshi though, if I was preparing for a Yoshi match of that caliber, I think I would grind out the Yoshi movement so hard. I think I'd be hitting Yoshi buttons so fast. So I think it would be a like a mind versus body type of thing, you know, like brain versus brawn matchup. Who can say who would win? I think Lod's much smarter, much smarter of a Yoshi.
But when you
However,
bring it to the Peach Ditto, then how does that change the whole dynamic between you two?
I don't know. I just got. I don't know what this question means.
Well, if the Yoshi, if the Yoshi Ditto is, God, this Yoshi Ditto, this Yoshi Ditto, which has never happened,
If the
possibly never
Yoshi
could happen.
Ditto
But
is mind versus body,
if that's
what is
mind
our
versus
Peach
body,
Ditto?
what is the Peach Ditto? How would you say that your play styles are? You know, what's the similarities? What's the differences? And how did that affect the set that you guys ended up playing?
Um, yeah, he plays on the ground a lot, and he's like got a really smart and hard to deal with set of like mid float to grounded mix-ups. I'm kind of more. He was definitely like corner kidding me a bit, where it was like he was there and he was like not super interacting. He was pulling his turnips, but I'm willing to not interact up high, and that's the difference. So I feel like I'm like much more of a. It wasn't necessarily like I watched Triff play and I was like, I'm gonna learn all the aerial mix-ups. It was more like being in the air was a byproduct of being on platforms. So from there, I learned how to do things in the air. And like one of my big developments as a player was when I like learned how to play more like Laud does, and then like actually developed a grounded mix-up game in addition to this. But primarily, my comfort zone is still like mid-height float, higher platform type deal, and Laud's more of a he's down there. So I think that how I felt in our set was that well, the first game he just like I guess wasn't like playing the game for a little while or something because I just like got like a really big lead and then he started playing the game way harder than me, and then came back. But after that, I felt like I was like getting a pretty solid like handle on the way that he was playing in the corner and being able to like actually outplay him in the mix-ups that he was setting up. And then game 4, that was no longer the case, and I was like, oh god, this guy's really beating me up and outsmarting me. And then game 5, I pulled out my trump card, which was big stage, platforms, air, non-interact. And that was, I think, what brought it home for me, was my willingness to not interact in the video game after getting a small to medium lead. We can call it the Michael practice. we can frame it that way, yeah. Though I definitely was. I was timing out Samus's with my Falco in 2016 on Anther's Ladder ranked, so it's always been a part of me. I could blame it on Michael though.
Well, what was the preparation for the IBW win? Because I feel like so before before you say it, I guess I'll say it. I know you're gonna do the whole Polish humility thing. I know that IBW is that weekend. In a Chekhov's gun scenario. All of Saturday, he kept mentioning how he's never had to practice the Peach matchup, and he was very open about like, yeah, I just don't practice Peach anymore. I haven't had to. Last time I had to practice Peach was for Triff, and you just kind of keep saying stuff like that. Uh, if this were a TV show, it'd be bad writing just because of like all the exposition and foreshadowing. But
They gave us a few too many reminders.
it's a little much,
A little over
a
the
little
top there,
heavy-handed
don't
on the
you
script.
think?
But this the script ended up playing out, and we saw you take that win. How did you feel about that set? How did you going into so this is winter semis at one of the most stacked tournaments of the year, and you have IBW.
Right. So at that point, I had qualified, which was cool, and
True.
which was my goal for the event. And that was also the point at which I was thinking, oh no, I'm going to have to call off work tomorrow. Upon realizing that I had not placed as low as I expected, which would have allowed me to drive back to Pittsburgh after the event. I was also still quite tired. So I slammed an energy drink and pretty much I ate a couple bananas and I went into it and I was like, whatever happens, happens. I am at peace. It's no longer in my hands. I've done all that I have set out to do. Here we are. Which is a pretty good mentality if you're trying to not get nervous, I'll be honest. Definitely was not feeling nervous versus him at all. Had talked to Essie before the set, of course, which is, that's the thing you should do if you want to win in Super Smash Brothers Melee.
Not your coach for the event.
What?
But
not my coach, notably Zamu's coach, who did much more coaching for me than my own coach, who may have even warmed up Cody for said set and not even come back with any meaningful tips.
I did see your coach playing the competition, and then I did see your coach eating a pretty how do I frame this? A rude amount of guacamole.
Just
It was
impolite.
frankly mean to the hosts and everyone else at the event to eat so much guacamole when he was not, purely invited to the event himself. But we won't get into that.
Hey, in my coach's defense, he was going down the Chipotle line, and he was searching for some vegan-friendly options, searching for some beans, searching for some tofu. And there was nothing there, and it was at that moment we realized that this event it was anti-vegan. It was not built for vegans. So I feel like at that point, all actions are justified. Like
The vegan-friendly event was last week. We
Was
had
it?
SBAT. We had beans.
Oh.
We had pinto and black. It's basically the main difference between this week and the last week was just the beans.
Wally should have snuck into that event like I did. Picked the wrong
We don't
one.
talk about that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I wasn't at that event. No.
I don't want anyone to hear that a competitor was able to play some friendlies at an event that wasn't for their coast, and this competitor suddenly made a bunch of upsets and placed it in a pretty unprecedentedly high placing. No one needs to get that.
No. Yeah. Nobody. Didn't happen. No worries. Yeah. No, in terms of, I can give you a tier list of my coaches this weekend. I had 3. Okay, so my first coach, I had a Saturday coach who I was definitely bringing as a coach and not to sneak in because they are a very good friend of mine. Notable Pittsburgh to Maryland Marth player, Craig. They definitely, I was like, hey, do you want to come to the, okay, so actually, let's start from the beginning. My Sunday coach, Wally _SSBM, a very powerful New Jersey Peach player, strong player of Pokemon fame, I hear. I don't know anything about that. Finagles his way into getting me a DM from one Wheat saying, hey, Are you trying to bring a coach this weekend? And I was like, oh, I thought Wally was busy this weekend because he was going to another tournament. I was like, but sure, I'll bring Wally as my Sunday coach. And then I suddenly realized I had a slot open for a Saturday coach. And who else to fill that but my good friend who lived 20 minutes away from the venue, Greg. So suddenly I have coaches lined up for days. I'm really like on my top player stuff, full like esports performance already. Um, and I did not expect Craig to watch 3 hours of Peach Puff and
Wow.
actually sit me down and give me tips. And they were actually quite helpful tips. And they helped me like contextualize some of my interactions in game with Hungrybox and helped me win some of them. So Crike definitely. I would put Crike at number one on the coach tier list. I'll be honest. Number two, not my coach for this weekend. Zamu's coach, Essie, notable, very strong Fox slash Ice Climber slash literally any character in the game player who does not like competing in tournament. And she just gave me a lot of really good tips before all of my sets that helped me win. She did the same thing at SmashCon. She's really good at coaching. Number three, at the bottom of it, I might actually add like a little bit of a tier gap
Yeah.
here. I will say that Wally certainly warmed up my opponents, though I did get a very powerful Peach Ditto warm-up session in the morning before I had to play Laud, which concluded with Wally switching to Sheik and battering my exhausted Peach with run-up shield into grab. There was nothing I could do about it. In that moment, he'd solved the matchup and defeated me, and then posted about it after the event.
Of
So
course.
I
as
would say
Beautiful.
solidly an F tier. Wally, my great friend, evil coach for the weekend.
And in addition to doing that, so the way that coaches were basically done for this event was, if someone wanted to request a coach, that if they're, if they had worked already bringing someone, they could bring someone as a coach. The way that it worked was Wally DMing me asking if he could come as your coach, and then me having to kind of go to you and be like, "Is this real?"
Is this actually?
So kind of the Machiavellian nature of Wally
Absolutely.
plus his love for validation for his Sheik and his and his desire to play your opponents, and his insatiable hunger for guacamole. Yeah, I think that solidly puts him in F tier.
Yeah, I would also say that Wally, my dear coach, dear friend, wonderful person, thought that he could beat my Marth with his Sheik in a money match. We put $10 on the line. This had been brewing for months. And it was a 3-1. I'm not proud of the one. It should have been harder, but I got him. Also, I returned the favor by playing Sheik versus his Peach after the event ended, and everyone was pretty much milling out of the venue at this point, and we were the only two people on a setup, just because we love the game so much and we're really truly trying to improve. Just talking about how each other are bad and carried, and playing Peach Sheik. It's a really good time. I will say, greater than 50% win rate on his Peach. I'm just gonna put that out there. Just gonna put that out there. He may have won the last game completely by luck, undeservedly, but I still have my win rate, and I will hold that. That was one of my big takeaways from the weekend, was that win rate.
It's possible.
I just want to say this is all in response to a question we'd asked about how you prepare for IBDW.
Oh God, do you want to go back to that? Yeah, I went into the video game. I wasn't nervous. I knew that Cody was like really bad against Peach comparatively to his other matchups. So I was like, yeah, definitely could win this. And then I did, and that was nice. That was cool. I enjoyed that. I was like, woo, we did it.
Yeah, not the only upset that we really saw, not only just from you, but the whole tournament kind of had some some surprise results throughout. I think that your story kind of overshadowed a little bit of what we saw, but when you have this many big names in an event like this,
Hmm.
a lot of stuff kind of fell under the radar. Anoke, sorry, Edwin. What
Mr. Budding.
Mr. Budding, what were your takeaways from this event? Because from watching it live, I don't think I have to add it that I watched it from the venue, but I did. I definitely thought there was some stuff that seemed like it would have been a pretty big deal, but I don't know. Oddly enough, a lot of the stuff that we saw, a lot of the big upsets, I don't know if it's just the current Melee landscape that we are currently in, but a lot of it didn't feel like it was like this monumental upset as much as it should be. What were your thoughts on some of the upsets that we got to see, Edwin?
A couple of them, it's funny you mentioned that, and I want to concur with that because I think like when you look at these kinds of pools, I thought that the way that they turned out was like there were a couple people in each pool who I thought had a tough way out, but like a lot of the four seeds, like obviously not just Polish, but like when I saw Cobalt's pool, I
Mm-hmm.
thought that there was a small chance that Cobalt could make it out in winners, and I thought at least like Cobalt against Marth is a
Mm-hmm.
matchup we've historically seen him take sets from other top players in. I thought he would. I thought especially given like he's from the same region as the Atlantic South as Logan that we hadn't seen like Cobalt in a while. I thought that Cobalt was kind of a scary draw for him, and in the middle of the set, no one remembers this because Cobalt ended up winning, but Logan actually four stocked him on FD, and Cobalt just shrugged it off. Ended up taking the set. He ended up beating Toussaint in one of the. It was a 3-1 set, but there was a game on Pokemon Stadium that was like a 5-minute three stock beatdown, and I was just really impressed with what we saw from him. For him to take so much time away from the game to come back and do well, it's not necessarily surprising, but I would certainly say it's notable that coming in and beating some of the rising stars of the last year and a half. Um, that would be one of my first takeaways. The second
What
takeaway,
about the rising stars themselves? Do you have a takeaway on that?
yeah. So obviously, I think that the elephant in the room is that this is just unfortunately not Logan's event. I mean, dropping the set to Cobalt, beating Toussaint was good. He had a bit of a not close 3-1 with IBDW, but I think one of the most by the result on its own, I think Zamo 3-0ing him really came out of nowhere as
Yeah.
far as their previous trends. This is a matchup that I know that Zamu used to struggle with a lot in the past. He had been working on it quite a bit over the last year or so. Had shown some pretty good results taking sets off Kuyashi and everything. But for him to come in and 3-0 Logan, the guy who eats up Fox players. You put a Fox in Logan's bracket, or you give him a pool of Foxes, Logan, they eat that stuff up, and it could just be extenuating circumstances, motivational burnout, whatever.
Essie?
When you yeah, it could be
I,
It
SEO.
could be
okay,
Essie,
I
Polish.
actually I actually don't know if Essie and Zamu communicate in a way that makes it possible for them to like work well together. I think that like Essie actually didn't end up coaching Zamu much at all, for what
Wow.
it's worth.
Well,
I know Zamu did ask Zane and Cody both how to beat Logan
hmm.
before he played Logan, so that may have played a role.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the. I think 3-0ing Logan as Fox is not easy. Like that's a even if you want to consider the fact that like maybe Logan was not playing his best, maybe Logan was not all there in the moment. When you talk about beating players in Polish, I want you to think about this too. You're talking about a set of ranges for how a player could perform, right? So even if a player is playing quote unquote bad or choking or throwing a set away, that's within a range of possibilities of how a player could play. They could play good or they could play bad. But even beating a player if they're playing, less than their average result, it still shows that you're capable of crossing into that range of play. So for someone like Zamu to 3-0 Logan, even if Logan is not playing at his full 100%, That is a very good result for a Fox player of Zamu's caliber, I would say. And it shows that Zamu can cross into that range of taking down someone who destroyed Moki at Summit, right? That's a very, very impressive result from him, I would say.
It's
Wheat, I
powerful.
want to bring up another surprise from pools that
Mm-hmm.
Warren's mentioned here. I want to bring up Ginger's 0-3 performance. And I want to bring this up not to beat up on Ginger, but to say that for me, I was very confident that Ginger was going to make it out in winners of this pool. I liked his match. I thought he had a good chance against Hungrybox given
Mm-hmm.
their rollback record. Polish, I know you beat him, but I know that before
He's
Smash
been
World
beating
Tour,
me up. He's
yeah,
been beating me
he had
up.
beaten you at Tri-Point Smash and been clutching out
Very good
sets over
record
you.
versus Magi as well
Yeah,
for the online era.
extremely good record. So
Recent
I
win on LAN as well.
Yeah. So I think if you're Ginger, if you're the low tide city champion, Ginger, dropping these sets in pools and then just having a devastating turnaround set against Wizrobe,
Mm-hmm.
and losers where you go from up 2-1 to just getting blown out the last two games. I think I'm glad that Ginger is going to try to compete at the last chance qualifier. I think Ginger is absolutely one of the most incrementally improving players over the last year and a half. But if we're talking about a rising star who saw his stock plummet a little bit, I think it's got to be Ginger. That's one of the most memorable. We often joked on the show about who the second best Falco was. Fiction came up as a topic before he had even entered a tournament with Falco. Famously,
Flash's name was- yeah.
famously Flash's name might have been mentioned. And now, I don't know, Polish. I don't know, Wheat. Can Ginger cement himself as the second best Falco for whatever that means in the next month and a half? Maybe, maybe not. But I think this event is definitely a step back for him.
Yeah. Well, we also should note, Ginger. Yes, he is. He did win Low Tide City. He is the champion of Low Tide City. He's also in the same pool as an Evo champion. In the same pool as a Smash Con champion.
Mm-hmm.
Then he goes to losers and immediately has to play like a Smash and Splash champion, right? These are three major winners that he has to play, plus Magi. And I think that having that as a draw, it's impossible for me to see that and really say, okay, well, this is the decline of Ginger. It's like when you have something at Summit and then someone gets 13th, right? This is an event that's kind of like a close analog to Summit in a way. Even though it's just the people on the East Coast, we are still seeing like the level of talent that you would see at a major. If you threw this top 16 onto like a 200-person tournament, that's a major. So the fact that Ginger didn't do too well here, it doesn't really make me think like we're not going to see any success from him in the future. Definitely someone.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
He's been really known for consistency, and if you look at what he's done on LAN, we've seen him. He had that win on. He had that win at. I believe it was what he won. Hold that L.
Hold that L very
right?
and he won Tri-Point that same weekend.
He won
very
that
solidly.
Tri-Point that was stacked. He won Low Tide, obviously, and then we also see that he loses to Flash, gets 13th at Riptide, gets 13th here, without taking a set. So it is odd to see like a level of inconsistency that we don't generally see from him. But the way that he is able to dedicate himself to the game seems to be, pretty in line with, like, not just falling off. So I don't know. I'm not too worried about Ginger. I'm not sure if like I would necessarily say, okay, well now that he got 13th of this, he's definitely gonna get first at the next one. But I'm not also gonna say that he's not gonna make it out of pools at the next major he goes to.
Right. Yeah, of course. But I did want to bring it up because I think it showcases that a brief, a pool that Ginger was by all means had a pretty.
Yes.
We came into it thinking that he had a good shot to make it out.
A great shot to make it out in winners, and a decent shot to make it out in as the number one seed.
Yeah, and I think I think it stands out not necessarily because I think Ginger was gonna fall off or suddenly drown in pools as
He's
next
bad
event.
now.
Yeah, now
He's
Ginger
not
lost to
good
Wizrobe.
anymore.
He's bad.
He's
No,
bad
that
now.
yeah, I'm not.
Sorry,
I'm-
didn't you guys hear? He lost to Wizzy. He's bad.
Sorry,
Yeah.
everybody.
But I do think it's kind of interesting with Ginger because we talk about his consistency. So for my Monday morning Marth this week, which went completely overlooked because of the other project that came out, I actually took a look at both Fiction's Falco and Ginger's Falco since July. And one of the things I will say with Ginger is that like I think his like overall records are really solid and consistent as you brought up, Wheat. But I also think that like I think that sometimes, like in a weird way, like when you find really consistent players with good records against the field, what you'll find with a lot of them is that they eventually just run into like a hard stop against certain kinds of players. And I feel like Ginger has kind of been in that, like, if he runs into, we mentioned Wizrobe as a very tough opponent, and I think it's especially hard for Ginger, but even like Nunn, SJ, I think Gatsu's really hard for him. I named all Falcon players, but like I think like Logan, Kadorn are tough. And like especially with Fiction's rise lately, dominating for Dugos, being positive on S2J in recent times. I don't know if I can say that Ginger, like if I see Ginger versus SJ in bracket, I gotta think Ginger's a pretty big underdog. But if I see Fiction against S2J, I like his chances a lot, and I like his chances a lot against that like tier of players. I don't know if I can say the same for Ginger.
Polish, I want to hear your thoughts on this. But I'm gonna. So
Do you?
yeah, I do. But before that, I'm going to talk.
Okay.
So there's this thing that I brought up recently on the show, which is like the idea of when there's an up and coming player, you like don't have the parameters for how good they are, and even though you know that they're not as good as like X player, I don't know, like the ability to have upsets seems higher for some reason. It's this like weird paradox where I will see a player who is not top 100 yet and they are getting incredibly good wins, and I'll see them in like round of 64 at a major, and I'll be like, they could beat X top player. And then you have a player who has been established. Maybe they're like in the 70s on something at the top 100. And for some reason, even though they are better, even though we have more data to show that they're better, I guess the mystery's gone, right? You now that you know more about them, the mystery of how they'll play is kind of gone. And I think Fiction still has that right now. Right now, we haven't seen enough of Fiction to know if this is like close to his peak with Falco or if he will improve, considering we have like only really seen his Falco for a year. And to see him already do this well, it's hard to say if this is the end of the upward trajectory. So yeah, I don't know. It's that's an interesting little thing, and I'm excited to. This is going to be the new HBox thing. We always used to talk about HBox in every episode, and still do. But now we're also bringing up Falco, the second best Falco in every episode, and it's something that we will talk about probably at length after main stage. That'll be some juicy little content. Now, Polish, formerly Falco main, do you have any thoughts on like what the current Falco crop is looking at like?
So, number one, I don't think I ever got good enough at the game with Falco to be able to meaningfully look at Falco play and say, oh, I think they're good because of this.
But you did beat a bait with Falco.
I did beat a bait with Falco. Luigi matchup is just you undershoot down air over and over again, and a bait didn't have good ledge dashes back then. Anyway, I think so. I will give you my vibes-based take, which is that I think that Fiction is a genius of the game. He sees it differently. He just plays every character and is amazing with them. And I also think that Ginger's really smart and good at the game and methodical, and he's got his drugged fox lessons. And in terms of who the second best Falco is, it doesn't matter to me, so I've never thought about it, which is my unfortunate answer. So I could record, go in and we could record a clip of me saying yeah, Fiction's the best by far, and Ginger will never touch him. And then we can go in and we can do the opposite. And we can just let both of those exist in the world as cultural relics. I think that would probably be fun.
And whichever's right.
Yeah. Whichever's right, you can go back and clip that one and be like, man, Polish is really smart, and they know a lot about Falco and the game. So
That's generally how Melee
that's
Stat likes to
my
play it.
yeah,
Melee
that's
Stat.
melee statistic.
The one. That's how we like to play it. Is if you just like keep making enough bold predictions, eventually it'll be right, and then you'll just act like, yeah, dude, I said Axe was
Yeah,
gonna
dude,
win some, and he
we,
did.
we
Don't
know
act
so
like,
much, dude.
don't pay attention every time I said Leffen was gonna destroy Hungry Box, and then didn't.
No, nobody brings up those messages. Nobody brings up the screenshots of those Discord
No one
messages.
brings up the wrong times. You only bring up the right ones, and
No, it's
suddenly
awesome.
you look
Yeah.
like you're a genius.
Yeah, you can drop takes. It's sick. It's dope. There's no consequences. No, I
Uh,
don't know. I think that like if I see fiction be the best in the world at literally anything, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. I just think he's really good at improving at things. And that's cool to me as someone who also really cares about improving at things.
yeah, he's a very big improver, very good at that. It's kind of, we've seen him do this with Peach. We've seen him do it in like 2015 era with Marth, and I think both, especially the Marth, have really good success. But this is the first time that we've kind of seen him like really fully drop his character for a new one, and it's really cool to see how. Wait, how are we talking about fiction? This is NA East. Let's
I'm
talk.
always down to talk about fiction.
So it's the Venus flytrap. Yeah, you get me talking about fiction.
Dude,
Okay.
he's cool. He's good.
Well, we were talking about his East Coast corollary, which was Ginger. Ginger, someone who lost to Wizrow. Another person who lost to Wizrow was Lod. Lod ended up doing pretty well at this event. It's another case of like, someone like you, because you both play Peach, and someone like Cobalt, because you guys were all seated low, yet the potential's there. And it's not that we have not seen brilliance from people like Lod and Cobalt, but it's just that in this sort of stacked event, when you haven't seen a lot from them, it's hard to really call that they're going to perform well. And then you have someone like Lod who, it's like learning box and in med school and such. I think finishing up med school. And all of a sudden, you have him playing for 5th place, which is pretty wild. I'm not sure if I truly expected that run from him, but with a player like Lod, it's truly impossible to count him out. And Polish, I guess the question I have for you is, so we are seeing, obviously with your 3rd place at this event, Lod's 5th place. Keizu ended up getting 7th place at the Smash World Tour qualifier for NA West, and Triff, of course, one of the best Peach players, one of the best players in Europe, period. We have more Peach players that qualified for Smash World Tour than Falcon players, which is something that, when was the last time you would look at the top echelon of Melee play and say that like Peach is more well represented than Falcon? It's a pretty crazy statement, but I want to pick your brain on what you think Peach has to hold in this new meta.
Damn. Well, okay. One thing that will sound like I'm being self-deprecating, but I just think is true, is that the top players have not had a reason to play versus Peach for a while. At least in the context of East Coast Melee, there like hasn't really been a lot of Peach going around. So it is, people are certainly, I think that Peach as a character is like, you've got like your theoretical Peach who like loses all the matchups and it sucks and your life is pain and it's valid when you complain. And then you have your real Peach who's playing against human opponents who make mistakes and don't have perfect flowcharts, which murder you for being slightly misspaced in neutral or something, or like being on the ledge. And then you have your Peach versus Kadoran and other players of that skill tier who have practiced versus Peach, where it's like, oh man, this is quite hard. And I do see how my character loses this matchup, but it is possible. And like Peach is still quite good. So I think that right now, you've got your Kadorans of the world who like you play Peach against them, and you're like, oh man, if I tournament winner at 70%, he's going to reaction tipper me every time and I'm going to die and that's what happened to Keizu in his set versus Kadoran. And it's like that's really hard. But then on the East Coast, you've got like, oh, it's nice that Cody lets me like down smash out of some of these scrambles and gets hit by them, and like, oh, he's not ready for the Triff, like jump back in the corner, drift in there, and it's like, oh, he just isn't really ready for that, so I can hit him over and over again with that. It's like a few things like that where it's like, I think that like some, against the people, Peach is going to get harder to play very soon because the top players are like, oh god, I have to think about Peach now. You saw Cody posted about it, thanks to someone beating him this weekend. I don't know who that was. So he's going to be grinding the Peach matchup. I hope that Zane's going to be grinding the Peach matchup because I would like to play versus Zane. And also Zane is just much worse at the Peach matchup than any of his other matchups by what feels like quite a long shot to me. So it's an interesting spot where it's like we're like better than we should be right now because people are like a little rusty on it. It's going to get harder, but it's also exciting because we can get way better too. So it's kind of like an arms race of like who's faster. Can I, a 9-to-5er, keep up with Cody grinding for 10 hours a day on his stream? Who can say, But it's very exciting, and I really, really want to play him after the rework, after like he reworks his Peach matchup, and just like see, have my own improvements that I'm bringing to the table, see his improvements that he's bringing to the table, and just play Melee at a higher level, and that would rule a lot. So it's very cool and exciting.
Edwin, do you know what this reminds me of?
What does it remind you of?
Do you remember when WoWing was legal, and we would have just these waves of Ices players doing really, really well, and then everyone was like, okay, we have to beat Ices, and then suddenly everyone would learn the matchup, and then Ices players would get beaten, and then they'd have waves of them not doing that well. And then people are like, oh yeah, I don't have to worry about Ices. There's no top Ices. And it's just a vicious cycle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think Peach is pretty similar to that in the current environment that we're playing Melee in. But I think the thing is that I also just think they are, I think Peach is a better character than the Ices are.
No, Peach, super good. Good character.
Yeah, Peach is really good, and I'm not afraid to say
it. Controversial. But
controversial. No, Peach is really good. And Wally, speaking of Peaches, Wally and I, on the car ride back from the Smash World Tour North America West 2021 Melee Regional Finals, we were chatting about this very topic. If you look at the Peach players that we have currently, we have you, plays 9 to 5, or sorry, works 9 to 5. We have Laud, who we mentioned before, is in the late stages of med school. Keizu, I think, is another 9 to 5er who we don't see on that grind. Not to say anything about his results; they're really good, but I don't think anyone would say that any of you three are on a grind. And then Ara, someone who took a kind of a little bit of a step back from Melee in early 2021-ish and only recently returned when Lan was returning. And Triff probably, people would claim one of the best Peaches that we have, if not the best Peach, and then non-existent in what we have to deal with right now in North America, and just kind of doing that classic Triff thing of only going Peach sometimes. So it's this tough, it's
the secondaries are kind of nice though. It seems.
I think everyone is mad because they're not nice, but they will.
But they win.
Yeah, they're not nice, but they're just good enough to beat a ton of their
secondaries are morally bad, but they will win.
Yeah, which is the worst thing. I mean, imagine being Rix and you get defeated by Triff's Marth and Marth. Triff's Marth is named Marth. You get beat by that Marth, and you're like, okay, well, this is clearly not good enough to beat me, and it did. Yeah, I mean, definitely putting people in situations to
I wonder
really
what that statement means.
Poor Frenzy. Poor Frenzy has been grinding the Peach matchup so hard, and he had a marathon grand finals with Triff's Marth where he barely came on top.
Yeah, dude. Poor Europe in general. But I mean, yeah, even then, we have players like Sharp who are really good, but I think that in terms of like the other representation that we see from other top tiers, I guess maybe not Puff or something, um, the people who are playing Peach don't seem to be on the grind, and if they are, they're not the top, the top like top 50 players that we are seeing, and it's just this weird thing because I think that is both somewhat of the reason why we're seeing that, like you mentioned, Polish, but also it makes me feel like the future of Peach is not it's not fully written yet, because if all of the good Peach players are not devoting time to the game, what does that say, right?
Two things I can say here.
Mm,
One, we play our little floater, we get our little down smashes, and then
mm.
we win. It's like, oh, it's my little floater character. I don't have to be a Cody definitely came up to me this weekend. He was like, "I'm so mad that you're just like not practicing and like you're not like playing people in between the sets. You're just sitting around." I'm like, "Yeah, it's my little floater. I just float around. I just hit the down smash. It's fine." Number two, yeah, no, Peach has so much room for improvement. All of the Peaches who are currently playing, like there's just so much that we can do better. So it's exciting, like as other people get better, I think that Peach can keep pace. And who knows who will do that and who will actually take the time out to grind.
Yeah, it was fun at the Smash World Tour West event, getting to hang out with Keizu and Ara because well, first off, they kind of pointed to a lot of stuff you did. I don't know if they ever told you that while you weren't there.
Yeah, I
You were
wasn't
you were
there.
not there
They were
playing
watching
friendlies.
VODs of me versus West Coast player
But
somehow.
yeah, I don't know if word ever got back to you about this, but they definitely were. There's some reference from them about some of the stuff you do. I think there's some of the stuff that other people do, like Wally. I think that was mentioned. Yeah, I mean, like the way it is, I think that it's like all kind of taking pieces of the puzzle from everyone else. I know Ara was very adamant about how Peaches should always do the reverse up
The
smash
reverse up smash
on
that I
Marth.
that I threw a game versus Zane by trying when it wouldn't have killed. Whoops.
But yeah, I think like the ceiling that we've seen for Peach, Peach is a really good character and theoretically really good. Um, so I don't think there's any reason for Peach necessarily to fall out of fashion anytime soon.
Yeah, West Coast Peach especially is really fun because they're like all a lot like they're like they don't do all like the dumb button pushy stuff that us the East Coast Peaches do, like Lod, Wally, I try. You've got Nico, of course, Nico Ryobi. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and we all like to hit buttons and say the word hyperfloat, as if that means something. And we do that, and we're all in on it together. And then we say like shield pressure and +4 aerials, and we're like working on all that stuff. But the West Coast Peaches, like, they're a little less so, and I think that like something I noticed while playing West Coast players not at the Smash World Tour West Coast regional
No,
qualifier
because you weren't there, of
because
course.
I wasn't
You
there.
were at the East Coast event.
Was that from watching VODs and doing analysis, I noticed that the shield pressure that Ara and Keizu represent, uh, they don't do a lot of like +2 like nairs or like kind of low aerials. They don't like which +2 on your aerials is the threshold at which aerial down smash beats roll. So you'll find a lot of like West Coast players who play a lot versus Keizu and Ara rolling out of shield in those spots. So us East Coast Peaches, we can just come in and we do our shield pressure and we down smash and we get the hit for free. And it's like, oh, this is nice. It's a stylistic difference that is good for me. So I think that definitely something that the West Coast can stand to work on. There's also the shield drop float stuff that I did that, and Keizu and Aura were at the setup, and they were like, "It's really good. Got to steal that one." And then I just told Keizu over and over again, "Watch Wally videos, hyper float nair out of the corner. Just do it. Come on, it's really good." And I think I said it enough times that he might actually do it, but who can say? I don't know. I really do just go around spreading the good word of Wally. As much as I like to diss Wally constantly, because we are good friends.
Deservingly so.
Yeah, deservingly so. Yeah. Um, he's really good, and he has a cool take on Peach, and he like is responsible for a lot of my improvement within the last 2 years. because I'll do something in the game, and then he messaged me on Discord, and he's like, "You should have done this. You should do this. You should work on this." And I give him analysis back in turn, but it's a really nice little symbiotic relationship we have. We kind of have like a little like two-man Peach think tank, which has been creating results. I think there's a lot to that. It's been working out. But yeah, I guess we were talking about West Coast. Yeah, West Coast Peaches, watch Wally videos. All will be well. Just do that. It'll get easier.
I want to. We're talking a lot about Peach. I want to go to my good friend Edwin on this one. Famously, a lot of the discourse that's been around Peach is about the how Peach does versus certain characters, whether or not what matchups are winnable, and we got to get to the guy who very famously said, "Princess Peach doesn't call Mario Daddy; she calls him Sechi."
Oh my god, what a throwback! Oh my god, that was like
is this
2.5 years ago.
That was just a question. That was you who said that, right?
What?
Because I remember that being some of the leading discourse that we've heard on.
I don't know if I would say it was leading discourse as
It was
much
content at the very least.
Yeah, I'm sure.
If it's not discourse, it's content.
Can't help. Who could forget that dominating Melee discourse for a full week? That one phrase.
I don't know if it was for a full week. Maybe for
Yeah, that was
you.
huge. No, I remember that.
I don't think it was...
Well, Edwin, I think
It's
you do
actually
love to dominate discourse with your content, and I think as much as people remember the one about Princess Peach calling Mario Sechi, what is it? So she's still calling Mario. It's still Mario she's talking to. Instead of Daddy, she's saying Sechi. She's not talking to Sechi instead of Mario because that would make sense.
Yeah. No, it's Mario, but like instead of Daddy, she's.
But Sechi's still in this universe because she knows about Sechi.
Yeah. He's involved for sure.
Yeah, it's not. So instead of this, content that you put out into the world, dominating discourse, I think you've been able to one up yourself, and I think with your latest bit of content, are finally able to control the discourse in Melee. Obviously, I'm talking about the project that Melee Stats is releasing in collaboration with PG Stats this following month, or coming up this month, I guess. I am, of course, talking about the all-time top 100. Edwin, this is something that you have done in collaboration with Pikachu 942 in the past, and I think if I could be so bold to say, I think this is possibly the biggest iteration of it yet. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think so. Just for reference, when we did the list 3 years ago, it was just kind of like our approach of it was that based on everything else that we had worked on together for the Smash History articles, for the my personal blog and everything, it was just kind of two people's opinion, right? With some set of with some basis of writing content before about Melee history. But it's been a while since we made that list. So, and while Melissa, aka Pika, has always thought of making updates to a personal list and keeping track of it herself, in earlier this year it hit me that Melee's 20th anniversary was coming up. The last time we had a top 100 all-time list was in 2018. A lot has changed since then. We've seen a lot of people kind of like in 2018 they were just starting to cement their their place in Melee history, or starting to begin kind of like a new part of their career in which they were going to impact the scene a lot more. And we've seen a lot of those people like Zane and IBDW just kind of become like bona fide stars of the scene. Now, at the same time, we're currently in a scene that, despite what everyone wants, I don't think we're gonna get a top 100 ranking this year. We're not gonna get an MPGR. We're
That's
just
what
out
I
of
want.
it.
I want to not get a top 100.
Yeah, I don't want a top 100 either. So I thought, in place of this content void that we have around rankings in the scene, but also as a response to the 3 years since the original list and Melee's 20th anniversary coming up, I thought it'd be a really cool idea to revisit the top 100 of all time and make sure it's not just two people's opinion, but six people's. with my my group of friends and comrades at Melee Stats.
Yeah, I mean, statistically speaking, 3 times better than every
Agreed.
previous list that's been put out. Yeah, no, I'm pretty excited to see both the response to it, and I'm excited to have this project be released in full, because I think that what we have put out is very exciting. It's something that I mean, who knows? Am I a little bit of a leaker? And I told some players at the NA West event that this was being released. Obviously, wasn't able to. I'm not the sort of leaker to release any places, but just kind of like a. It was fun to gauge. I think I talked to like 2 players about this, 2 or 3. It was fun to gauge their thoughts on what would be following, just to see how they thought they would place and what the general like placements for the entire list would be. And that was just kind of a little insight into what I think is going to be happening in the next few weeks, because the perception that people have of what a top 100 could look like and what a top 100 might be, I think it's so interesting. Um, we've seen 20 years of this game, and having a project that like actually is able to go over it all, I think is something that will be pretty appreciated. Now, Edwin, I think the question begs to the question begs itself. Why do you think that ice climbers aren't good and none of their wins count?
Yeah, so I mean this is part of a broader discussion, but as for my point on this, it's not that I don't think ice climbers aren't good or bad. I just think they have really volatile results that are hard to take much away from. It's like you design a game or you design a character in a game where all its competitive results are just not real, no matter what. No, it's like you're giving your fate to your opponent, and you're giving your opponent's fate to them, and like it's kind of like reverse Falco, right? Like we've talked about this before, where it's like with
Have
ice
we?
climb.
We were talking about reverse Falco.
Well, it's like Falco. It's like that. It's completely in your hands, but like it's high volatility, but it feels like you control like the results. Whereas with the ice climbers, it's like you could just run into someone who's playing good, and there's like nothing you can do to stop them because like they hold all the cards or whatever. Like I just think for at least on my ballot, without getting into the specifics or spoiling the whole list, that if I had a bias in my list, I think I was relatively harsh on ice climber players. But
Yeah.
I think everyone had that. I think everyone had a similar bias or in another area, and I think we all worked very well together to counterbalance each other. I know Ambi hated boomers. I know that. We to be honest, I think you were anti-boomer as well, but I didn't really detect much of a bias with you. You were pretty steady with the head-to-head records for players
I'm
in each
always
of
on
the
the straight
eras.
and narrow with these types of things.
Yeah, we had a very weirdly, except for a few things at the top that I wouldn't agree with, but like I think wheat was pretty sensible for most of the
Yeah,
list.
I will say I expected to disagree with you a lot more than we ended up disagreeing. There were, but to be honest, the things that we agreed on, I will say that you came to my level. I didn't meet you on that level.
I don't know if I don't know if I would agree with the gall of you saying that, considering I actually had like a previous precedent for the list, which I imagine was helpful for you in shaping your opinions for an
I would
all-time
say
ballot.
that that my ballot was more shaped by pure data and results that I was able to pull up on my own. And I do believe that the ballot that you first posted ended up not being your final ballot. So I don't know if you want to go and say that someone copied off someone. But of course, we're not here to bicker. We're here to revel in the glory that is 20 years of a game coming up, and top 100 to celebrate one of the greatest gaming communities of all time.
Well, I think one of the nice things, because people will ask about the way that the panel worked, is I think I just want to go back to this point I brought up earlier. I think like for whatever blind spots that like any individual panel member might have, you have to remember that like there's 5 other people there, right? So if I think that a player is like really 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 good, like that's going to be balanced by 5 other panelists' interpretation of that player and what factors they're going to weight differently than me. That's one of the things that I thought was really exciting about this list, because what it came down to, I think, was like all 6 of us actually like agreed on about like 80 or 85% of the players, and then for the players that we disagreed on, there was a it was very easy to determine what the differences were, because it was like it was between things like weighting era differently or longevity differently or peak differently. So at the end of the day, we came up with a list that I think is like I think it's really good, and I think it's a good mesh of like historical perspectives on like peak versus longevity versus career, or like meta accomplishments or whatnot. I just think I think the list is really solid, and I'm really proud of what we did with that. And I think the blurbs that we wrote, I think the way we organized the project together was really good, and I hope it's something the community enjoys.
Yeah, I think that it's going to be really good. We already saw the release of this, the announcement of it, with your methodology piece on pgstats.com, with a wonderful trailer by JDMH, and the first iteration of the list already having released, and maybe the second iteration by the time you've listened to this. Edwin, we are going to get some chance to have more of that capital D discourse and make some capital C content about this as we get further into the list. Further waiting for games might have a little bit more to chew on as we get a little bit more revealed. But unfortunately, we're not going to have Polish for those. So Polish, before before we get too far into this, let's get your thought. Who do you think's the GOAT? I'm not going to reveal. Edwin's not going to reveal. You're just going to be shouting into a vacuum.
Oh god.
Dude, there's like three options. It's not.
No,
it's
there's
not that hard.
two options.
There's two.
Yeah, there's 2 options. Just pick one of them. You don't
Actually,
even have to
there's
give it
5
much
options.
thought. There's 120.
There's 120 options.
I've never thought about or engaged with this question. I don't have any coins in my vicinity. Armada's
There's no
pretty
diplomatic
good.
answer. You have to
Armada
give
was
one
really
too.
good. Oh, that guy was good. Yeah, I like Armada. I haven't thought about it, but I liked Armada. Oh god.
A reasonable answer. Okay.
Well, you also weigh Super Mario 64 speedrunning in your answer.
Yeah, absolutely. No,
Okay,
top
yeah,
top
that
100
makes a lot of
in the world
sense.
in that. I hear he was pretty nice with it. I don't know. I've been thinking about trying to hop into like ask him for a match analysis, but I don't want to be the guy who like comes into Armada's stream. It's like, hey Armada, Melee, your Mario's wave dashing there, like that kind of thing where it's like he's just desperately trying to live his best life
Yeah.
and like be a Mario 64 speedrunner, and I just don't want to be like, remember your past.
You're gonna be like, hey Mario.
Hey
Mario.
Hey Mario.
Hey Armada, can you you're gonna like link him a set? Can you analyze this? And he's like, oh yeah, I love to see your Oblina. And then he's gonna open it up, and it's gonna be Melee, and he's gonna be disgusted.
Oh no.
But yeah, time will tell, right? That's the big question that we're gonna see. That's the thing. That's what's so fun about this list, is that the question of who's the GOAT, who's number one, is pretty contested, and I think we're gonna see a lot of talk about that. But throughout the entire reveal process, I think a lot of this is fun. A lot of who's top 10, who's not top 10, who's top 5, who makes it outside of the top 5. I think a lot of the placements that we see, especially with that top, are really fun, and will lead to some fun debates. It's not even just that first one. So I guess we asked you who the number 1 is. We already know who number 100 is. Who is number 69? Do you think?
You're gonna throw Ty on there, right? Surely you just put Ty at 69. I think that's
well,
like the right choice.
Ty unfortunately already made the list at
did he?
number 98.
Well, you
So
have
it
to
is not Ty.
retract that now.
Polish,
There's other
you guys
Arizona
made a
players on the.
mistake.
There's other Arizona players on the list. It's not just Ty. Ty and Meds are out though.
I would love to tell you that we were able to rig the system. Unfortunately, number 69 was determined purely by
Data.
a weighted average of our
Mm,
individual
A weighted
rankings.
average, a very different methodology than the first time.
yeah.
Yeah, there was
Yeah,
no
no,
way to rig this one, unfortunately.
I'll be honest, I would call that a mistake. I do
Okay.
not mean to come in and tell you how to do your
Is there a
job, but
second best player to be
is there
69?
a... There might not be.
Okay, well,
I think Ty's
well,
the only one. He's the guy in
69
my
might
mind
be
where I'm like, that's him. That's 69.
69.
There
Maybe
he
we'll leave it
is.
blank as in
Leave it
solidarity.
blankly, yeah, in honor. Yeah.
Yes.
This is for what could have been. In a perfect world, what would have been.
So if you are interested in checking out who's going to be number one, you can of course you do that. Edwin, do you have a do you want to drop the date of when we're going to be wrapping everything up?
Yeah, so we're actually going to be publishing the last 10, so that's 10 to 1, on Melee's anniversary, November 21st. So we're going with a Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule right until a surprise. Well, I guess it's not really a surprise because I wrote about it, but then we're going for a Sunday drop.
That's going to
For
be a really nice mix of like, oh, it's the Melee 20th anniversary posts with either Mango or Armada viciously complaining for a
It's
full
going to be
day.
great.
That's going to be such a day. Oh my God.
Because usually the big thing about the Melee anniversary is it's like there's 5 Melee anniversaries or whatever it seems like. I feel like once
Yeah.
we get it's already November, yeah, we're already probably gonna see a bunch of tweets about like on this day Melee was released in Japan. Oh, Melee was released. It was kind of unofficially released this day. Yeah, we're gonna see a lot of those
How?
posts. So it'll be a very fun thing to have that some
yeah,
you
for
know
sure.
debate and stuff mixed in with that. But yeah, so you can check that out on Melee's birthday. And if you want to just see who made it to 69 and close it all after that, you should be able to see that in the next coming days, I would imagine. Next week, I believe.
Huge.
So that is what we have going on with that. I'm really excited to talk about that further. But let's talk about instead of Melee, let's talk about what else we've got going on in our lives. Polish, I'm not sure if you ever are able to catch any of this show, but if you if you can guess, we talk a lot about Melee, and because of that, I think a lot of the people who take our content in and take a lot of Melee content in are like pretty unable to see people as anything but just like little Melee bots, and as someone, someone like yourself who is like pretty admittedly not truly devoting yourself to Melee, I think it's a really good opportunity to show people that we are more than just like people who devote their lives to Melee. So we have a segment that is unnamed, which is not allowed to be named Touching Grass, even though I've heard from fans that they like the name Touching Grass. That I was voted out 1-1. That it's not allowed to be named as such. But yeah, we basically every episode we try to have a segment where we talk about other stuff that's going on in our lives that's not Melee related. I will go first. So the thing that since the last episode that has been going on in my life most that's not Melee related has probably been Cecil's in Laurel, Maryland, the bar that Nan, Gatsu, and I went to 3 days in a row. But I'm not sure if that truly counts because the first day we were talking about Melee and Nun's talking about Ganondorf and the bartender walks over and he's like, Ganondorf, you guys play Smash? And went to his car and brought out his Switch and set up Ultimate on the like screen that they had there. And then the next day we come in and everyone at the bartender's like, how'd you do today, guys? They were very invested. And then on the final day on Sunday, the bartender came in and was like, where's Cobalt? Oh, Cobalt didn't make it today. Oh, IBW looks really good at the game. And that Peach player, so unfortunately, I'm not sure if that counts as not Melee related, despite the fact that probably took up the most amount of non-Melee time in my life in the past week. But I will mention the thing that probably took up the second most amount of non-Melee time in my life, which was something that I was too afraid to say last week as my Touching Grass segment, which is the Philadelphia 76ers. I was afraid to say it last week because they were not as good. And now after a pretty good week, despite some COVID protocol players having to sit out, I will say that is the thing that I've been doing most. It's a very fun team to watch, and hey, if you want to talk about capital D discourse, I don't think there's more discourse going on in the NBA right now than the situation going on with Ben Simmons. So very fun, and hopefully only more good stuff to come from there so that I can talk to Fendi about. So hoping for more. But yeah, what has been going on with you?
Is this me, you, or is this Edwin?
I
You?
guess I didn't really.
There's two people on the call.
I'm
You
gonna.
see, other
It's
than
gonna be
you.
like yeah. I'm gonna just like throw it up, and whoever takes it. So what is going on with you? Okay, neither of you guys want it. What is going on with you, Polish?
Uh, okay. Recently so I like played piano from age like 5 until like age 16. I like stopped in college. I went to college very early. Uh, so I like stopped doing that, and then, but I liked doing that. And now, post college, recently I went and I bought a keyboard, and I'm going to try to start learning piano again, which is going to
Nice.
be, it's very exciting for me. It's a nice like thing to grind and thing to learn. Also, throughout my time like playing piano, my I wasn't like a someone who was like actually I was a kid who my parents were having me take lessons. So I never like actually tried to improve or do anything good. I just was like, oh, it sure is fun to play the keys really fast. But like I took like no music theory lessons whatsoever, and my piano teacher every week was like, do your music theory. Never did it. So now I'm going into piano again as like an adult human and being like, let's learn music theory. And I already have my ability to like move my fingers fast in a way that does things well. Also applies to melee. So
Hell
yeah,
yeah.
piano.
There's definitely like a pretty fun similarity between. I'm just gonna be the melee as jazz guy. I was gonna say there's a fun similarity between learning melee and learning music.
Yeah.
But I do think that the way that we like people kind of devoted themselves to melee is like easy to replicate that with a lot of stuff. And I hope that you find success with that. When I
Yeah.
was in high school, I started playing guitar when I was in middle school. When I was in high school, I started playing a little bit of piano. And even though I wouldn't say that I'm like incredibly proficient, I guess I'm not great at either. I did find music theory really easy to pick up from the piano itself. Just like
Mhm.
once you are able to visualize it all and figure out what note is where,
Mhm.
all of that stuff kind of came pretty naturally. And I think that someone like you, who is by all accounts smarter than I am, I think you'll have no issues with that.
Don't know how to interact with that statement, so I'll just let it go.
Cool. We'll
Yeah,
pass it
no,
on.
you can. No, I'm not letting it all go though. I'm taking some
Okay.
of
All
it.
right.
No, you misunderstand me. We're still about me. It's still me time. Yeah, no, say if I was like on a melee podcast, the analog I could draw with piano amongst a melee audience, if I was in that situation, would be that me on the piano is much like a fox who learned how to multi-shine, but is still learning like when they should wave dash. You know, it's kind of like,
Yes.
if I was amongst a melee audience and had the desire to make that statement, I could say that.
My
That
niece,
was all.
I have two nieces who are learning piano currently, and yeah, you remind me of my 6-year-old niece who is wants to play stuff as fast as possible,
Yeah, that
but
was
it's
me. That
A
was me at
lovely, a
6.
lovely sentence. You remind me
you
of my
remind me of my
6 year
6-year-old niece.
I am much like Wheat's 6-year-old niece.
Everyone's saying it.
Everybody's been saying this. You haven't seen that?
It's the current discourse on
Yeah, it's
Twitter.
huge. It's just so huge.
No, but you will absolutely kill it. You'll be up there with the great melee pianists such as Nintendo and others.
Oh, Voodoo
I don't.
Jin. Voodoo Jin plays piano at tournaments. It's very cool.
Okay, you and
When he comes
you,
out.
Nintendo, and Vutagen, the big three.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
Three
can't
people,
wait to see it.
often grouped together in other circumstances.
Yes. No, the only similarity between you three. Um, but yeah, that's really fun to hear. That I think music is kind of one of those. I think we're all in agreement to this. I know Edwin is also musically inclined. But you say that, and then he talks about how he's the best vocal range of any Smasher, so we can't actually say that.
I didn't say best. I would say among the biggest.
But yeah,
Yeah,
Polish, I think you'll be great on piano. I can't wait to keep up with that journey. And Hey, let's hear Edwin. What kind of journeys are you on recently?
Well, it's funny that you brought up sports and Polish brought up music because those two things that have been what I've are a bit adjacent to my two big interests. I picked up guitar again, so I used to play guitar a lot more seriously in high school. I wanted to be a musician for a while and just kind of fell out of it. I really wanted to be like a guitar virtuoso. So like now when I play today, like I have a better grasp on like music theory and like understanding how to like actually songwrite meaningfully or like play with a lot more discipline. But all my technique is bad now. Like I'm really sloppy. I can't play as fast as I used to be able to. Like when I was younger, I used to play like a lot of heavy metal, a lot of like guitar like prog rock stuff. So I
Edwin,
play
quick
like
pop quiz. What are the notes in a C6 chord?
uh C E A.
Polish?
I have nothing for you. I am like a child.
Yeah, I mean you're right, Edwin. The A would be the sixth in that scenario.
Yeah, that's
I believe if you were playing on a piano, most people would be playing the G as well, the fifth, because otherwise I'm not sure if that's a C6. But hey, that's the type of fun music theory that I never got fully into, but maybe Polish will.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. So
Hit me back in a month.
In one
And
month, yeah.
Yeah, give me
I
like
wasn't
one
done
month.
talking. Let me talk. So I got back into playing guitar. I'm like relearning all my favorite Dave Gilmour like guitar solos and like
Well,
Pink
if you don't have
Floyd
the G,
songs.
it's just an A minor, right?
Oh my God!
It's just like
No,
a different
it's not your
inversion.
turn. Let me
No, I'm
talk.
just saying, like,
Oh my God! No, that was the first half. The second half is just I'm very happy that the Patriots remembered to play football well, and now we're 4-4.
why do you
We're
get two halves?
game and a half. Well, there was other two things that I've been doing outside of Melee.
I think
Playing
Cousin Chris
guitar,
is the
watching the
one thing.
Patriots.
All right, well,
Sometimes at the same time.
Wish I had a second.
that's
half.
fun. Okay, that counts then. Yeah. Well, it seems like we're all on the same page on this one, whether it be Melee or activities other than Melee. Makes for a really great episode of capital C content to just be all on the same page about this. Hey, if you want to also see some content, you can do so at Polish's socials. Polish, do you have any socials that you want to link? Anything where people can find you?
You can follow me on Twitter if you want at SSBM Polish. I don't I don't do much else. I streamed once. Not really super interested in the content grind, unfortunately.
Well, very fun Twitter. Very sincere tweets about how you want to major.
Yeah. God damn it, dude. Oh yeah, no,
No level
I
of
did,
irony in any.
no irony whatsoever. I've never
tweets.
run a bit on my account, not even
No.
once. I mean it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I did win a major, and then if you see the picture of me afterwards, it was me crying because I was so
Yes.
happy that I won a major. I do remember actually from this weekend, Cody, Zane, and I were like standing around eating pizza, and Cody was like, "Man, it feels really good to be hanging out with my fellow major winners, like my peers." And I thought that really stood out because those are my peers, the people I belong with.
That was on Cody's fourth piece of pizza, I believe.
Yeah, on his fourth piece of pizza before he ate the fifth one and then blacked out for an hour. Just was unable to do anything.
That fifth piece.
Yeah, the fifth piece.
Maybe at a different tournament, that fifth piece would be the most regretful thing that any Smasher had did, but unfortunately Cecil's was open, so some more bad decisions were made.
Oh, good.
Hey, speaking of following stuff, if you want to follow Cecil's on Twitter, they have a very unoptimized Twitter that None was giving them some notes. None was giving them some notes about how they could optimize their Twitter, so they're following 6 people: me, Melee Stats Pod, Wally, Godsuit, None, and Toph. They've got 0
They didn't
followers.
follow Kobold?
Cobalt was not there on the last day.
Oh
Cobalt
my
was
God.
on his way back to Georgia.
I can't
But
believe
if
y'all
if you
didn't
do
rep
want to
for him.
follow the self-proclaimed best bar in Laurel, you can do so at Cecil's Bar 109 on Twitter. And while you're on Twitter, if you want to follow someone who's followed by Cecil's Bar, you can follow Melee Stats Pod. We're going to be tweeting out, all the results that we do last night in Melee, and we're going to be tweeting out to links that we'll to the content that we put on the meleestats.co, such as weekly articles about tournaments upcoming for the weekend, when's Melee, and then of course Monday Morning Marth, the time where Edwin just gets to talk about whatever he wants for 1,000 words.
Sometimes it's a tweet.
Usually it's one tweet that spurs you on to write like 10,000 to 2,000 words.
10,000.
10,000.
Oh my God.
2,000.
Yeah, 2,000.
10,000 to 2,000. It's on the spectrum somewhere there. And if you want to see the equivalent of us reading 2,000 words, you can do so on the Melee Stats YouTube channel. Really, really excited to see all the reception to what we put out in terms of the Melee Top 100, but also really excited to see the reception to stuff that we put out recently on YouTube. That being the game Nintendo wishes it never made. Kind of a little bit of a history of our history, a history of the community's engagement with Nintendo and vice versa. So if you have not checked that out already, do so. While you're on YouTube, you can go to the Melee Stats archive. You can see episodes of this. You can see some bonus stuff. You can see some sets that are not otherwise on YouTube. And if you want to see more of this podcast live, you can do so at twitch.tv/MeleeStats. And, if you just love everything that we do, you can support us over on Patreon at patreon.com/MeleeStats. Before we go, obviously we have some questions from those lovely patrons. Polish, I don't know if you would like to answer. I believe you are a patron yourself, so if you have anything you'd like to ask yourself first, now would be the time.
Oh my God. That's a huge opportunity. Unfortunately, I wasn't prepared. I will say one thing on my honor. I did not go into the patron channel and check out the questions beforehand. I let it play out as it normally does, blind answering the questions now.
Yes, great. Well, you know how it is. You are both a patron and presumably someone who partakes in all this content. So you know that the deal is we ask our patrons questions, and then we have this little back and forth game of saying that the questions suck, and then the questions are good, and then they suck again. But we are on the good side of this whole little game.
Nice.
So Teslick is going to ask, what's your favorite color?
It might be lavender right now.
Hmm.
I've been on
Very
kind of a
fun.
lavender vibe recently.
Damn. Fun. Nice. Lavender vibe. Okay. SF, great poster.
Amazing
Great.
results poster.
Great. Great
Really good
little
Twitch chat poster. Best in the game.
great Wikipedia poster. Just wonderful addition to the core of Melee.
Really good at putting words on the internet.
Amazing. Possibly could be called amazing. But SF asks, what differentiates your playstyle from other Peaches such as Triff, Lod, Keizu, Wally, etc.? I feel like we did mention some of this stuff during this episode, but platforms, yes.
Platform, willingness to not interact, but that's Triff too. So I would say I think a lot. Another thing I think a lot about against worse characters, I would say against Samus and stuff maybe I interact less in spots which would allow characters to have higher reward than they otherwise would get in neutral. I tailor my game plan specifically to shut down really high reward options, and I think that's one of the best things that I do. And then when I see another Peach get hit by a high reward option in a spot that they didn't have to engage in, I'm like, hey, why'd you do that? So I don't know, that's all.
We have got a couple more here. We're making some good time, so we'll get a couple more out. Wills is going to ask, where do you think you rank among the top 100 in foot racing? I'm not sure if this is top 100 in foot racing or if it's the Melee top 100 if they were foot racing. But
How much time do I have to prepare? I'm out of shape. How much time do I have to prepare?
Let's say right now and 6 months. 2 answers.
6 months?
2 answers right now and 6 months.
Oh, okay. I don't know. We've got a lot of like athletic people. You know, there's like the idea of like Melee players who are like boulderers, like that kind of thing. We've got a lot of like pretty athletic people, and I've been slacking right now. So, but I am also pretty athletic, like as a person. So that has to bring me up. We've also got like, you know, you've got your abates, your like big runners. Damn. I'm gonna, based on pure athleticism alone, I have to narrow it down to like top 50. I have to be up there.
Quite possible.
But who are the fine people, the fine top 100 players? I don't know. I don't think I'm willing. Do they also have 6 months to prepare in the second situation?
Yeah,
Or
they're also getting 6 months. It's not just you. You're not getting a leak.
This one's so hard.
Well, there's only one way to find out.
I would say, you know what?
6 months from now.
I'm gonna ego trip.
Okay.
We'll take the Polish's dope route. Ego trip right now, top 30, with time to prepare. Top
Beautiful.
20, because they also can prepare. I don't know.
Yes.
The ego trip ran out. Damn it.
Now, are you more afraid of a top 100 player getting into running and being very good, or a top runner getting into Melee and being very good?
6 months isn't enough time. It's not enough time.
What if
to get
Usain
good at
Bolt
Melee.
picks up the box and develops a pretty sick fox?
I gotta say, I don't think Usain Bolt has enough time to learn slide offs.
Damn. Okay. Well,
I don't think you can do it in 6 months. I don't think you can get to the point where you can move and do slide offs and SDI. I'd cheese him. I'd cheese Usain Bolt.
the truth has to be said. Let's end it with this one final question. So this is actually not going to be a question from a patron, but it's a question from a member of Melee Stats. So this is Ambassador's question. And I believe Ambassador's question alone. I don't believe that he was put up to say this by anyone else. But what is your hair care routine?
What is my hair care routine? I use shampoo and I use conditioner. And that's about it.
Wow.
I'll be honest.
The big two.
That's as far as it goes. I've thought about getting into it a little more. Never gotten around to it. It's like I don't go outside. It's like, it's COVID still. It's around. So it's like I'm just hanging out at home and this is just happening. It's occurring. So yeah, no, I'm sorry I can't drop a fire hair care routine right now.
Polish.
I don't have much.
If I can, I want to sneak a question to you before we head out. Fiction released a tier list of all of Falco's matchups. And something that immediately caught my eye in this tier list is that he listed Falco Peach as 65-35 for Falco. And he cited the fact that it was very difficult for Peach to get a hit on Falco, and that he sees the matchup moving toward Falco's direction in the next 3 years as both sides get developed more. Now, as a Peach player and as someone who used to play Falco pretty seriously, your thoughts on this would be greatly appreciated.
Okay, as a Falco player, I always felt like Falco Peach was really easy because a lot of Peaches would just throw themselves at you in bad spots where you could reactively punish them. And also they all do the aerials from the air that you can just crouch cancel. And they're like, you can't crouch cancel me, I'm Peach. But they all used to do that back in 2016, 2017. So I always thought like, oh, Falco owns Peach. But then Laud destroyed me every time because he was a million times better than me. As a Peach player, I feel like I guess and sometimes kill Falco in the matchup. I don't know. I've really been trying to study the matchup because, I saw my pool. It was Ginger and Magi. And I was like, let's really learn what's happening in Peach Falco. And at the end of the day, I was watching Armada VODs, I was watching my VODs, and I got like a few things out of it, but mostly I was like, it just feels like I have to guess and hope I'm right, and it just feels like luck for me. Um, I think I'm not good enough at the match. Genuinely, my take is that I'm not good enough at the matchup to really have a take. My take as the third thing, which I am, which is massive fiction believer, is that anything he says is correct and I will accept it uncritically. So if he says 65-35, I will agree.
You have to.
So
You don't have a choice.
yeah, I have to. I literally
You must.
would I put up a counter argument, he'd start talking about laser heights and like laser timings, and I'd be like, yeah, I noticed those, of course, yeah. Like I couldn't hold the conversation. I'm not powerful enough yet. So maybe one day I'll come in and I'll say, you know what? I think it's only 45-55, and I'll come with my facts and strong argument to back it up. But right now, I'm not ready to engage. Not powerful enough yet.
Well, you say that you're not able to hold a conversation with fiction, but you're able to hold a wonderful conversation with us today. Really happy that you're able to make it on. I know that you are kind of rocketing into the stratosphere of top players, so I was very happy to hear that you are not too big to appear on the show. But yeah, really, really amazing to have it on. I appreciate you coming after such a big weekend for you. You're still able to make room for us little guys.
Any podcast that Captain Faithful's been on, it's huge. It's a huge opportunity for me to be where he once was.
True. Third place last week. Now we have
third place last week. Yeah, amazing
So-
company I found myself in. I'm so happy with that specific result. That's huge for
And
me.
hey, we have obviously, who can forget our Pipsqueak episode that we had way back when? Third place at the
Also a third placer.
third placer.
Oh my
Does Melee
God.
Stats have something?
These are
with
the best third placers.
third placers.
What if we're actually holding them back? And it's like they'd be getting first place if they weren't showing up on our show.
No, I only
Yeah,
wanted to
very
qualify
possible.
so I could.
Who
beat
got third
Pipsqueak.
place at SmashCon Fall Fest?
Damn. I know the answer to this.
Do you know the answer?
I think I might know the answer to that.
Edwin, do you know who got third place at SmashCon Fall Fest?
Who else but the villain of Chicagoland Melee? No fluxes. A future guest of the show.
Future guest, yes, for sure. But
Yeah.
as far as our
When he
present
gets
guest-
third at Genesis.
when he gets third at Genesis, we'll get him on. But as far as our present guest, yeah, once again, Polish, I do want to thank you
wait.
for being on. You've been very good.
Yeah, thank you. I do my best.
Of course.
It was lovely to be on. Good podcast.
Third best podcast. That's
Third
why we're third best in Melee.
podcast. Okay. I'll run that. I don't really interact with much Melee content, so I'll take your word on it.
We will never say what 1 and 2 are, but let's call ourselves the third best.
Good brand
But
name.
yeah, thank you for showing up, and thanks everyone for watching the now newly minted third best podcast in Melee. And we will see you guys next week. Even though Smash World Tour events, the qualifiers were kind of we saw a lot of the big ones. Doesn't mean there's still not more to talk about. We will have more to talk about next week. I will see you guys then. Peace.